Why? What is it, man? The dude's not asking me to sing anything over the internet. Why? I'm gonna sing a cappella shit, make up words, and sing, make up a melody and sing. No, they're not. She's talking about Abbey Road, man. They've got all my masters. They got all my guitar tracks. They got all that shit. They don't need me. And Jeff Emmerich, I think he helped invent the ADT, the automatic double check. Lennon wasn't lazy. He just didn't. He didn't he didn't like his voice. He never did. Just like Cobain didn't. He didn't like his voice. He didn't want to do overdubs. It's not. I don't think it was laziness. I just think that he really didn't like his voice. So they came up with the ADT, which is an automatic double track. And what that is uh, uh, it's a piece of tape. I mean, just like tape echo, the way you get tape distortion, regeneration, the way a piece of tape moves across a recording head into a playhead. It's not like digital delay. Digital delay sucks. Analog delay is beautiful because it regenerates. There's speed differentials of what the tape speed is running at. If the tape wobbles while it moves through the capstan, uh, if the tape bounces up a little bit, it'll just give you pitch differences and wow and flutter and all these tape anomalies. It's just tape is beautiful. So what they did, it was ingenious what they did with ADT. ADT was kind of like tape echo in the way that it ran at a variable rate using milliseconds, and as it so it was kind of like a 15. It was somewhere between 15 or 10 milliseconds and 45 millisecond delay variable, and as it varied the echo, it would the word it would create as it echoed the voice. It would speed up the words and slow down the words. It would speed up the pitch, slow down the pitch, and it was a variable thing you could control with a knob. Jeff Emmerich came up with it by basically the first version of it was him using a pencil and pushing the tape up and down. So it gives you this effect of an automatic double check. The best example of ADT would probably be on I Am the Walrus. You can really hear it there. It was ingenious. And Lennon was partial to flange. They over in England they call it flang. Here we call it flange. He liked flange, and that's what he knew ADT to be. Tape flange is something they also invented in England by accident by when tape engineers didn't have their gloves on, because back then they used to wear gloves before the Beatles, and well, a lot of people did when they're handling tape, when you're splicing it, when you're creating window edits, when you're doing shit like that. You use a tape razor, and there's a tape splice block on top of those old uh, machines, and you'd wear gloves. But one time, a guy wasn't wearing gloves, and he got his thumbprints all over the tape. And as they spun the tape back, it began to flange, and they're like, "That's an interesting effect." And a good example of tape flange like that is at the end of Jimi Hendrix Axis as Bold as Love, the reprise, where it's phasing and it's flanging. ADT, took all they had back then was tape. That's why digital delay and digital slapback and any it's okay, but it doesn't beat an echoplex. You know, it was genius what they did in England. Was they were forced to use primitive, basic, not primitive, but like compared to America was primitive, and America had no idea how they were doing this shit. So that's what Lennon would do. He would do one track. They tried everything with Lennon. They tried putting him through distortion. They tried putting him through those Beatle amps, those Vox amps with the built-in effects. That a good example of that is that at the end of back in the USSR, when you hear that modulation, that's through a Beatle amp. They tried putting him through that. They tried putting him through a rotating Leslie cabinet for On Tomorrow Never Knows. And eventually they came up with ADT, and Lennon was wild about that. He thought it made him sound good. They went as far, with things like Strawberry Fields. They went as far as to record him in an ordinary pitch, and then bring it down a whole step and record the music in that step. So his voice essentially was much slower, and it gave him this weird frequency response and dynamics that you couldn't achieve normally. Beatles were geniuses, absolute geniuses. That's where that's where George Martin comes in. From doing comedy records, he's used to doing slowed down voices, sped up voices, like we got the Chipmunks here. You need a Baroque piano passage during In My Life. He'll take it down to 3 1/3 tape speed, record the piano, speed it back up, and you've got this harpsichord spinet type Baroque classical piano that George Martin played. And it sounds like fucking Beethoven. They were geniuses like that. They would record something like Rain in a fast tempo and then bring it down, probably using the pitch modulation, a step or two, I forget how much. And they'd have to record it extremely fast. And that's how you get that Ringo drum sound. You have to be extremely articulate when you're playing fast, because when you slow it down, you can hear every microtone. You can hear every step of the percussion, and that's how you got things to go shift them into a whole new dynamic graphic EQ, parametric EQ, dynamic depth. I don't think anybody knows who invented the backward shit. I'm pretty sure it was the Beatles. I think the story I got, either a lot of people think it was John Lennon when he accidentally spooled tape, and he was smoking a hash joint. And he must have been high out of his mind because he spun the tape upside down, which makes it play backward. And he heard these backward voices coming out of his speaker, and they said, "Oh, we got to use that," you know, backmask. But it was definitely they know it was in England. They invented everything. Well, what's that? What? I don't need to sing anything. I'm not singing here. This ain't. I don't got any song. Why would I sing? I'll sing when I get somewhere. What, if somebody need something? Take my guitar tracks I did and loop them and make a song out of it. I don't know. That's that's what I think this guy keeps asking me. Don't you believe that I can sing? I'll sing when I get where I'm going. Or take one of my tracks and play on top of it. I don't think that's what they're saying though. But I'm not lazy. I love the studio. I will sit there and overdub all day, And then usually they got to tell me, all right, that's enough. You can't add any more to this. That's enough. Let's work on something else. And then I'll get stuck doing that. Can I play piano? Can I play drums? Can I play whatever it is? I gotta get out of here. I'm going nuts. It's funny though. McCartney, McCartney pretty much saw no use for that. He's like, what the fuck I want to use ADT for? I'll just sing it. But towards the end, Lennon was kind of lazy. I don't think he enjoyed the whole process like some people do. It's something you're born with to have that McCartney drive. To me, it's the most exciting part of everything is the studio, and you never want it to end. I'm always guilty of that, of doing too much unless somebody stops me. I'll drag out the mixing process forever too. I mean, I need somebody to stop me.